Hi, this is James from Tabletop Gaming Guild, and today we're going to take a look at Shadowrift, which is a 1 to 6 player game where you're going to be trying to prevent the annihilation of New Haven. And you're going to do this by closing up shadow rifts or building up the walls of the town to make it impregnable. So let's go ahead down to the table. I'm going to show you how to play this deck building cooperative game, and then we're going to come back and I'm going to give you my final thoughts. Alright, so this is Shadowrift. In the game of Shadowrift, there's two ways you can win as heroes. You can find and seal all the Shadowrifts, where these going to be these cards that are going to show up throughout the game. Or you can construct all 8 walls, which are available right here. Those are the two ways you can win, but you can lose a couple different ways. This is going to be the town square. If the town square contains no villagers or walls at the start of the hero's act step, note that while infiltrators are villagers, they do not count as villagers for this purpose. We're going to go to infiltrators in a little bit, but basically if this is void of villagers, you'll lose the game. A monster takes the annihilation action is another way that you can lose the game. And the last corpse is added to your city, which is going to be this pile of corpse cards right there, which is pretty significant. So it does take a little bit to fill the town with corpses, but it can happen. Setup for the game may look complicated, but it really isn't. A lot of these you're going to have a nice organizer that's going to come with the game that you're going to keep all these separate. So you're basically on the board here, it's going to state some of the basic cards that go out, like these wounds, and you have a huge healthy stack of wounds because you'll be getting a lot of them in the game. And you got these heroism cards. Now the heroism cards are a little special. You're going to have 5 per player. So if we're playing with 6 players here, we're going to have 30 heroism cards that go here. You'll put out all the might cards, which are going to be these ones right here. You'll put out all the strike cards that are not starting strike cards. I'll show you what those are in a minute, but all the regular strike cards are going to go here. You're going to set out your little stack of coins. Sorry, these ones are actually supposed to be strikes go here, seals go here. There's only going to be 4 seals in the game, but seals will go here, strikes will go here, and then this setup here we're going to go over in a second. That's going to be special. That setup's going to change potentially every game. We'll go over those in a minute. But the villager deck here, which is going to be where they say villager down on the bottom, you're going to shuffle this up and you're going to place out 5 of them. Now there's 10 villager cards and they cycle through pretty quickly, and this is a town discard. Up here is going to be villagers, but they're going to say traveler on the top there, and this is where you can get some of the traders in here and cause problems throughout the game. You'll shuffle this up and you'll place 2 out. If one of the traders comes out, one of these red cards right here, you'll immediately put this in the town discard, and when the town discard gets shuffled in and gets drawn, these guys can cause all sorts of problems, which are listed down here. If that happens, you're not going to have 2 travelers available. You only have 1. You don't replace these. You only actually do that at the during each round. So what's there is there for the whole round. You'll get these 4 different walls out, and so there's 8, so there's 2 sets of each of these walls. I like splaying them out like this so you can see the costs on the bottom, but that'll be your 8 walls. You'll set your deck of corpses here, and this is going to be your faction specific monster special. In this case, since we're playing with dragons, it's burn, but I'll show you in a minute. That's going to be special each time and go out, and these cards are going to be special too, and along with this monster deck. So we're going to go over that in a second. Now, if you look in the rule book, it's going to mention that you should start with dragons. The monster faction you start with is fire dragons. So this is the fire dragon deck. You can tell because it says fire dragon down in the bottom left hand corner. You'll shuffle these up and you'll put the deck here. There's going to be a little more that we're going to do for that deck in a second, but that's what we're going to do for right now. And then you're going to take out the dragon special effect, which is going to be burn in this case, and place it there. Then you're going to notice that there's going to be some skill decks that you'll put out, some attack decks you're going to put out, some action decks, and some loot decks. Now there's a lot of different cards in each of these categories. These are just the ones that you'll be taking out. Think Dominion. If you ever played Dominion, you'll set up your market here for everyone to go from. Now, at the back of the book here, let's go back to the back of the book here real quick. The back of the book here, still a little farther here, there's a whole bunch of other suggested setups on here. So I do suggest using these and going through all these first. But after that, you can actually use the randomizer deck if you want. This is going to be the randomizer deck. And this will help you randomize your monsters and the starting cards and stuff. So you'll just shuffle this up and you'll go through till you get a monster, and you get your 8 different starting cards and you can put them out there. Now you can ensure your variety in there if you want or not, so a certain amount of attacks or whatever. But basically, that's how that gets set up. And each of those cards that we're seeing in that little set there, you're going to place on here. And you're going to have 8 total different cards to pick from throughout the game. So basically, this is a market for every player. This is a market for every player. And this is a market for every player throughout that round. So the last thing you're going to do for setup, other than placing out the tokens and easy reach for everyone and this token out for easy reach, is you're going to take this deck and you're going to split it in half. Once you split this in half, you're going to take these Shadowrift cards. Now these Shadowrift cards are one of the ways that you can win the game. If you seal all the ones that are in there, you'll win. But what you're going to do is you're going to evenly displace the Shadowrift cards into the 2 halves of the deck. If you have an odd number, the higher number goes in the top deck here. So we're going to shuffle this up like so. And then we'll shuffle this one up like so. So we get those cards all over the place. And then we'll put the one deck on top of the other deck. And that will be placed up here. And that forms your monster deck. That's how easy setup is for this game. The only other note that I have is you have these starting cards that each player is going to have. You'll have them separated in the cool board game divider there, but they have this little symbol here down the bottom right. And every player is going to get 7 of these prowess cards, which we'll go over in a little bit. They'll get 1 explore and 2 strikes. So this is going to be their little deck. They will shuffle this up, and at the beginning of the round, they're going to draw 5 cards. And like any other type of deck building game, you draw the 5 cards, you'll play them, they'll go in a discard pile. Once the discard pile runs out and this deck runs out, or once this deck runs out, you will shuffle the discard pile to make a new deck. So that's how this functions. So let's go into gameplay. So gameplay is going to go into 8 phases, which is going to be explained in the back of this book here. You can just leave it out. Once you go through this a couple times, it just becomes second nature in there. But the first part of the phase is going to be you're drawing your 5 cards. So you'll take your deck here and you'll draw 5 cards. And these are the cards that you're going to be able to play on your turn. And like I said, there's going to be the 2 strikes, 1 explore, and mainly these prowess. So these prowess here are basically going to be one of your resources in the game. There's 3 different resources that you can use in the game, which is heroism shows, which is a wild that can be any of the 3. You have magic, you have your prowess, and you have your coins. So 3 different resources you can use in the game. So once you draw your card, you're going to refresh the town. So you're going to discard all the cards in town square, which will go in here. Since this is the first round, we're going to leave what's out there. And then you'll place out 5 new ones. If this deck runs out, you'll shuffle this town discard and place it in here. Now, the traveler deck here, if there was any travelers that were left out, they'll be placed on the bottom of this traveler's deck, and 2 new ones will come out. So that was step 2 and 3. The next one is going to be Monsters Act. Now, there's no monsters out there, but what's going to happen is these monsters are going to go down this track. You have Monster Start, Monster 1, Monster 2, Monster 3. And if you look at one of these monsters, which this is a bad example, so let's look at one of these monsters here. If we look at one of these monsters here, this monster here has a 1, 2, and 3. So if the monsters start, nothing happens. But if the monster moves to Monster 1, it's going to do this monster one action, which is going to be each hero discards a loot from play or gains a burn, which is the special effect in the game. And these will clog up their hands. Now, when you gain burns or whatever, those go in your discard pile, but those will eventually get shuffled up, and you could end up drawing them. 2, if it goes from 1 to 2, you're going to, in this case, the heroes with the heroism token gains a burn, and then you kill one of the villagers that matches the symbol here. The way that killing works is you're going to look and see if anyone matches that symbol. If anyone matches that symbol, you're going to place them up on the bottom of the traveler deck so they can come up in the future. And you're going to replace that villager with a corpse. So these are these corpse cards. So these will clog up this deck right here. So you place them on the corpse. This guy would go up on the bottom of the deck. If you didn't have a matching symbol on there, and none of the symbols matched here, you would go hunting for them. And you would do that by flipping the cards over this deck until you ran into a villager, and then you immediately kill them. Now that could be a traveler in this case. If you kill anything in that area like that, or you say you just gain a corpse or whatever, they go into the town discard instead of onto the board itself. Now, it is noting that this is one of the cards that you'll always have in the game, and this is a guard. So this guard has a reaction. When another town card would be killed or broken, a guard dies instead. So this guard would die instead of this mayor villager, and the corpse card would go in here, and that would get placed up there. So these guards are really useful because they sort of protect your more valuable villagers. So that's how killing works. Now, if this moved to 3, so let's say this moved to 3, kill a villager in play. Each hero discards an affliction or gains a burn. So that's basically how this works. Because 1, 2, 3, the first one doesn't count. If it makes it to 4, it's going to flip to this side, and this side is going to be the monster power area, and this is going to be in the phase we're going to explain in a little bit, but it's going to boost it by increasing how much of this points you're going to get to place out new monsters. So the game will move faster and faster the more monsters you can't destroy before they get to the monster power. So they'll travel each round to that area. And it is worth noting that multiple monsters can be in one spot. Now, the amount that it's going to take to kill these, so the health is going to be right here, so that's going to be 7, and the cost to place this one out is going to be 5. So at the start of the game, you would have flipped the top one face up so you know what's happening, and every time you place new monsters up, you will flip the top one face up. So that's how monsters act work. That's how they move across there. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to add monsters, which is step 6. And you're going to compare the power points with the cost of the card on the top of the deck. If it has enough to play, it'll immediately go out. Now, the way this is going to work is you're going to take your player count and you're going to have that many points. That's going to be your baseline points. So we're going to start with 5. Now, and we're going to use this track to count. Now, if we had any monsters in the power area, those ones would also add to this total for us to place out monsters. And again, we're going to look at, in this case, this Drake is going to take all of our points there, that 5, so it's going to come out and be placed here. And we're going to go down to 0, and this phase will end now that we have used all of our monster points, but we would actually keep on going. And a 0 would immediately come out, so we'd keep on going. And a 0 is one of the Shadow Rifts, so this Shadow Rift, if it would have popped up, would have immediately been available on the board, and we might be able to take this out. Now, Shadow Rifts aren't going to do anything when it goes to different spaces, but when they leave the board, they're going to come back and go to the bottom of the deck. So they're going to go through the board at different times, but basically this is 0 cost, so it'll immediately go out. Now, if we had another one come out, they would go on top of this one, and so on and so forth. So that's how Add a Monster works. That is basically the round setup. So that's what you're going to do at the beginning of every round. And now here's going to be the fun part of it. It's going to be Hero Act. That's going to be 7, and then we have 8 for cleanup. But Heroes Act, acting in any order, you can seek aid, play cards, resource actions, attack, You can do skills, and you can do loot, and you can gain new hero cards, hire villagers, and build walls. So you can do all these different things. Now, like I said, there's 3 different resources in the game. If you look at your hand here, you're going to get 4 prowess, and you also could do a strike. So this is 1 melee damage. Now, there's 2 different types of damage basically in this game. There's going to be melee and range. If you do melee damage to a monster, you will take a wound. So you'll grab one of these wounds, and they will go into your discard pile. Now, these wounds here do nothing. They just fill up your deck here with bad cards that do nothing. You can remove them for 2 prowess, and you can basically have suboptimal turns because you have too many of these, so you have to watch out. But anytime you do a melee attack, you're going to get a wound. If you do a ranged attack, you won't get a wound. You could also send 2 prowess to change this to a ranged attack. So I could spend 2 prowess and not get a wound and do 1 damage to the monster here. If I do 1 damage, I'm just going to put a damage counter on the monster there to notate that. And they won't lose that damage count until they go to monster power area. Once they go to the monster power area, the monster's gone. It's not really there. It's just adding power to put out more monsters per round. Now, if we ever meet or exceed the number that is the health of that monster, the monster will be removed from game, which we'll just actually basically place it on the bottom of the monster deck. So not really remove the game, but it's just placed on the bottom of the monster deck. Other things we can do is we could spend this prowess here and get different cards. So we have our market here, and we have our cards that happen all the time. Now, heroism cards will only occur when you destroy monsters or other events here. If I destroy that 7 monster, I'll get the 7 heroism, and they have to be evenly distributed. Oh, sorry, I won't get 7 heroism. I'll get heroism equal to the number of little icons here, which is the monster's power. So I'll get 2. And the way that's going to work is I'll have 2, and I give myself 1, and then I'll give the player to the left 1. And the next player that didn't get 1 is going to get this token. And from then on, whoever has this token is going to be the first person to get the heroism card. And then this token will move along, and that will be the next person. So the first person that didn't get 1 will have this token. They'll be the first person to get a heroism card because they're supposed to be evenly distributed among the players. So I can purchase any of these cards in here if I want. The cost of the card is down here on the bottom. And one thing to note is some of them have a special symbol here. These cards you have to be a little bit careful with because they can only be played 1 per turn. So you don't want to have like an overly large amount of these guys. These are ones you can just play. Some of them have different comboing things you can do. One of the most important ones, which is not a whole lot of them in here, so you have to keep that in mind. So one of the players may want to focus on this, or 2, depending on how your player count is these seal cards. These seal cards here are really nice. You may put a card from the monster power area on the bottom of the monster deck. And this is basically one of the only ways to get rid of monsters in that monster power area that are going to keep bringing monsters in every round to ruin your life. So that's a really good card just to have in general. But if you have a magic to spend on here, you can seal a Shadowrift in play, removing it from the game. This earns you 1 heroism for the party. So whoever has that token will gain the heroism. And this is a cooperative game, so you're not going to be fighting over them. But that will get rid of 1 of the Shadowrifts. And again, you have Shadowrifts equal to the number of players. So if you get rid of all those Shadowrifts, you will win the game. So this is one of the easiest ways to win, and one of the most important cards in the game, but they're very limited. So that's one thing I could purchase in here. I can gain a might here, which is just another prowess, so it's just more money that I can spend in the game. Like I said, those heroisms are going to give you all 3 of those resources. You can get another strike if you want to be able to do more damage, but these cards are going to be your powerhouse that are going to be available in the game. And you're going to really want to go through these. The other thing you can do is you can use one of these villagers. And if you use one of the villagers, you're going to ignore the cost down here. And you're just going to get the action. So this is going to be aid. Pay 1 money when attacking to deal 1+ damage. So if you do that, you'll place this villager over in the discard. The other thing you can do is you can add some of these travelers to the villager discard deck, which is I highly recommend doing this a bit because these are going to be powerful villagers that will help you out in the game. You don't have to repay for these guys. They could die because monsters could kill them. But when they come out here, you can use their abilities, which is free. You should pick them up and use them and pay for them and place them in your village there whenever you get a chance. So these guys are very powerful. You only get 2 out per round. Some other things that you can purchase in the game here are going to be these walls. Now there's going to be 4 different walls. And they all have really cool abilities, and they will go into your villager deck also, and they will pop up. But if you get all 8 of these, and they can be destroyed, by the way, so you want to keep that in mind. But they are pretty expensive, so this is going to be 5 coins and 4 prowess. This is going to definitely be the harder way of winning the game, but you can win the game with this. So if you're going to see you're having a lot of hard times with the Shadowrifts, you probably just want to get walls throughout the game when you can. And deal with the Shadowrifts when you can, but the Shadowrifts are going to be the easier way to win the game. It's like I said, there's going to be 4 different ones. They all have their own little abilities there. They're all very helpful, and you could purchase those in the game. So the other thing, like I mentioned, you can attack. You can use your cards for attack to do damage on there. You could build a wall there. You could get any of these, purchase any of these cards. You could play any of the cards that you purchased. So like if you played Wild Charge here, you would do 2 melee damage, and you would gain an extra wound. So you would get 2 wounds for this. But if you play 2 prowess, you could gain in damage, and if you pay 1 prowess, this additional 1 prowess or 1 prowess, if this attack kills the monster, you do not receive the extra wound. Now, one thing to keep in mind, which I didn't mention, which is a rule here, is normally when you're doing all your damage, you're just going to get 1 wound at the end. So it doesn't matter if you do 50 damage or you do 1 damage, you're just going to get 1 wound in it, but except for in the case of that card. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So these are powerful cards that you're going to be able to play, and you're going to be able to play all your cards. Once everyone's done, then the hero act will end and you'll be into cleanup. So played cards and cards left in hand are placed in the discard pile. So basically whatever you played and whatever's left in your hand is going to go into your discard pile. And we're going to start another round. And again, at the next round, you're going to draw 5 cards. And like a deck building game, if you have nothing in your deck, you'll shuffle up your discard, and that'll be part of the cards that you draw. So that's it. That we're going to continue on until in the beginning of each round, we're going to see if anyone loses or wins. But we're going to continue on until either the game wins or the players win. Now, there's a limited number of coins here, but there's a lot of coins. And coins can be just purchased in general. I didn't mention for 2 prowess, other than getting them through different abilities. But that's it. That's how you play and how you set up Shadowrift. All right, the last thing I want to mention is, well, I do want to mention that there's a lot of different monsters in the deck. You come with a healthy number, I think about 6 or somewhere in the number, but you get a healthy number of different monsters that you can play in the game. But there is a solo variant to the game, and this is basically the only changes that are in the game. So for the solo variant, you're going to have 8 heroism instead of 5 per player, because there's only 1 player. There are going to be 2 Shadowrifts, 1 shuffled in the top half and then 1 shuffled in the bottom. Again, that even distribution of it. The monster, so you only have to take out 2 Shadowrifts to end the game, but that's not as easy as it sounds. The monsters gain power as if there were 3 players, which means that at each round they're starting, you're going to put that minimally up to 3, and then you're going to add it for each of the monster power, or the power in the monster power area. So everything that's in there is going to keep adding on to that. You're going to have negative effects that target each hero, all heroes, hit the player twice. So you'll get hit twice with that. So that's pretty nasty. The player takes 2 turns per monster turn. In essence, the round order is draw cards, refresh town, refresh travelers, monsters play act, monsters gain power act, add monsters, hero act, clean up. Repeat, draw cards, refresh town, refresh travelers, heroes act, clean up. So the monsters are going to go once where you get to go twice. So that's really cool. But like I said, they're a little nastier. But I just want to mention that these also have the solo variant in it, and this is really the only changes you have for the solo variant, so it's really easy to get into this. So that's it. Let's go back up to the table here, and I'll give you my final thoughts on Shadowrift. All right, so that was Shadowrift. Now, Shadowrift is a neat deck building game where you're going to be Dominion style market there. We're going to have a set number of cards that are going to be out each game there, but there's a lot of replayability. There's a lot of the different monster decks that are available in the game, and there's a lot of different combination for the different cards that you can place out. So there's a lot of replayable in that aspect. Component quality for this game is good. It's not amazing, but it's not bad. I would highly recommend that if you play this game a lot that you sleeve these cards like you would for most deck building games, because you're going to be doing a lot of shuffling and the cards can get damaged fairly easily. I would also suggest always using the board. They do come with components in this game that you could just not use the board, but that doesn't make any sense because it takes up the same amount of area and the board really nicely lays out everything. So it doesn't make any sense not using the board, so just use the board. Board's pretty good quality. The art in the game, I think, is cool on the cards. The board itself seems a little muted to me, so I wish they would have just brought the art up on the board itself a little bit more, but that's a little bit of a nitpick. The gameplay itself is fun for this game. It's a nice little puzzle for trying to defeat the monsters. You can have some bad luck in this game for which monsters come out first, so there is a little bit of wonkiness to the game there, depending on how things fall. Some games can be very easy, some games can be very difficult. I will say that I don't see the win condition of building all the walls really being that relevant. It seems like you always want to close those shadow rifts is the easiest way to win. However, I could see maybe with the way the cards are coming out, the walls might be the way to go, or if someone can get a lot of prowess and money, maybe you're going to want to do that. It does take a lot of resources to get those walls, and you have to use those resources for other things like gaining villagers or gaining new cards. So walls are probably not going to be the route to go, which I found a little disappointing as the second sort of objective for the game not being that strong, or at least like semi-even. Shadow Rifts are definitely the way to go for the most part for winning the games. Like I said, replayability in this game is really high. It's a fun deck building game. You're not doing a ton of deck building in this game because you're not going to be able to get a lot of cards through each round before the game ends. But you're doing more like mitigation in this game. You're going to be trying to get rid of those wounds. You're going to be trying to get that seal card out so you can seal those rifts. So there's a lot less of getting those really cool cards and using them than there is just trying to keep everything under control in the game. Overall, I really enjoyed this game. I do think that I will be playing this game in the future, and I do think that it has a lot of replayability, and the one thing I really love about this game is all the different monsters that you can pick in the game and how they have a completely different feel with it. I really like the Drow deck a lot, but there's just so much you can do in that area, and the artwork for the monster decks I like that a lot. There's a lot to this game, and I can see people just falling in love with this game, getting the expansions, keeping on with this game. The base box is really nice for organizing everything. Really kudos for that. So if you're looking for a good deck building adventure game, this is definitely one of them. I think that if you are big into deck building, and not that there's a whole lot of deck building in, but you're like that genre of games, this game is definitely one you're going to want to check out and play. And that's my thoughts on Shadowrift. Thank you for watching.